Please welcome to the stage Robert Downey Jr.
What's up, Austin? Sorry, I said I'd do a 5-minute photo op before I started, so just hold your seat. Come on, this is important to me. How are we? South by Southwest, this is awesome. We are about to hear from some fascinating folks, fascinating experts. But before I bring them on the stage to join me, I thought maybe you want to know why I'm here, why I'm moderating a panel on online crime. So I owe you an explanation. I think the impact that technology has had on our daily lives, certainly in a certain character's arc I used to play, has enabled us incredible progress, yields tons of entertainment. We surround ourselves with technology on a daily basis. Every system that has become critical to daily life is connected. So it seems like we're at an impasse. Hi. This is what happens when the teleprompter goes dead. So I'll take some questions from the audience. Oh, who is he? Yep. Hey, this is like that Chris Rock show where he kind of didn't get the joke right. Take your time, buddy. More photo ops? Okay, great. I know what you want. I like it when the tech nightmare happens, and I don't give a fuck. Oh, wait a minute, they're rebooting. Okay. I'm going to interview this lady right here. Hi, what's your name?
Hi, I'm Maddie.
Hi, who are you photographing for?
The North Texas Daily in Dallas.
Is that true, or are you a deep fake right now and you're a plant? I can't tell.
No, I'm here.
You're here. As clearly you want her to get a little airtime. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Sam.
Hi, how you doing? Okay, how'd you get this gig?
I don't know.
Allow a follow-up question to that? Did you come through a portal, or?
I'm here also. I'm the arts and life editor at our papers.
That's great. Well, that would be a reason that you're here. All right, we're back up. Let's give a hand to our great IT team back there. But we allowed some interpersonal connection. Yeah, stand by and watch. So I got a phone in my pocket, tablet in my living room, laptop in my office. You guys having a sidebar, or can I get on with my speech here? Okay, fine. Smart speaker in the family room. Even that annoying toy that my kids love is internet connected. Everything's connected. We're all connected. Look, everyone's got their phones out now. The average household has 25 connected devices. We have work devices, personal devices, connected TVs, printers, speakers, appliances, and baby monitors. Consider this. Last year, Americans lost $10.3 billion to online crime. That was just updated, new data from the FBI. And that doesn't take into account the money businesses lost from the breaches you hear about on the news almost every day. So I want to take a moment for that and just let that sink in. That's $10.3 billion, 10 figures. That is more than the GDP of over 50 countries stolen. I also want to take a minute and ask, is this your dog? What is its name? Josie. Let's hear it for Josie. Josie's right here in the front row. But again, back to the point at hand, how can we argue that online crime is anything but a national crisis? That's honestly why I'm here. That's the answer to the question, is I take this pretty seriously. You lock your doors before you head to sleep. You check the Ring doorbell every time there's an alert. You set the alarm system whenever you step out. We do these things without thinking about it, but the potential to lose your hard-earned assets is exponentially greater online than in the real world. We know this. It's changing. During the pandemic, it has just gone through the roof. So home burglary losses account for less than half of what was lost to online crime, which is crazy because it wasn't like that just a scant few years ago. And total losses are growing every day. This shouldn't be surprising. If you think about it, if you think about the risk-reward ratio for the crime, you break into a home, incredibly high risk, Breaking and entering could be a felony with an enhancement, fairly low reward, given how high the stakes are. Maybe you'll find some cash, some jewelry, maybe worse, but you send a link that installs some malware on a phone, very, very low risk, potentially very high reward. So it's obvious, criminals are lazy. So the next logical questions are, why is it so easy? Why are these online criminals, so effective? How can we stop them? And by recognizing that we have an emergent crisis, that's job one. So bottom line, I'm a husband, I'm a dad, I'm a human. I'm hardwired, as we all are, to protect our family, protect our assets, protect our interests. And I think it's time to fight back against cyber criminals. Fire with fire or water, pick your metaphor, I don't care. We're either going to get steam or we're going to put their fire out with ours. Earlier this week, I announced that I am joining online safety leader Aura as an investor and member of the board of directors. And together we've assembled today a panel of truly insightful minds. I think you're really going to appreciate this, to unpack the realities of online crime so that you can better protect yourself and your family. First, we are joined by former FBI agent Eric O'Neill. Eric has worked as an FBI counterterrorism and counterintelligence operative, a cybersecurity consultant, and a speaker for spyx.com. His most notable achievements are helping to capture the most notorious spy in U.S. history, Robert Philip Hansen. I remember the movie. It was a cool movie. I'm sure the real story is pretty amazing, too. His life is the inspiration for the film Breach, and his own best-selling novel, Gray Day, He Will Blow All True Crime Lovers' Minds. Next, we are joined by Maria Konnikova. Maria is awesome. She has committed her life to studying the psychology of fraudsters. We were all just hanging out backstage, and it's just such a fascinating topic. I think we should have been filming it back there, but you guys, this is better. We'll be doing it live in front of you. She is the author of 3 New York Times best-selling books, The Biggest Bluff, The Confidence Game, and my personal favorite, Mastermind, How to Think Like Sherlock Holmes. All great books, high recommend on hers and Mr. O'Neill's. Maria hosts this podcast called The Grift, which is a show that explores con artists and the lives they ruin. Her writing and research has been featured in Best American Science and Nature, has won numerous awards, and has been translated into more than 20 languages. She's here to help us understand how fraudsters operate and why we're so susceptible to their tricks. I just saw myself in the big jumbotron and became transfixed. This could go on for a while. After a rocky start, I think we're back up and running. Thank you very kindly for your patience. And last, but certainly not least, my partner, we are joined by Hari Ravichandran. He is an incredible individual. He is the founder and CEO of Aura, which is a super innovative, I think, best-in-class startup delivering intelligent online safety powered by AI. Hari is an engineer by training and an entrepreneur by nature with a track record of founding successful businesses in technology and web security. I think Josie is going to get a big kick out of Hari. He is the author of, I'm reading it right now, Intelligent Safety. This is a fantastic book. You got to check it out. Intelligent Safety, How to Protect Your Connected Family from Big Cybercrime, which hits shelves this April. Today, he's going to tell us how AI can put us back in control of our online lives. Let's welcome our panelists. Hey, man. It can only go smoother from here.
That's right.
All right, this is so cool. This is such a cool turnout. Thanks, y'all, for showing up. And we are going to make this worth your while. So I have kind of a general opening question for everyone. Feel free to take it or pass it around. The American public largely ignores data breaches, high-profile hacks, etc. Why aren't we more concerned or outraged? Why should people be outraged by this?
Sure, I can take that. When you see one incident, like let's say you start to get a note about somebody grabbing your data, et cetera, most individuals don't have a sense of what that means for them. The impact of the data breach is unknown. And you're also much more immunized now because every day, every other day, you see one more breach. And people just start to assume that that's just part of life, and it's the cost of sort of using technology, and people inherently make the trade-off between the convenience of technology and giving up your own security, and it ought not to be that, but that's just the way it is today.
Anyone care to piggyback on that, or can go to a new question? Up here?
Sure, I'll just add a little bit because Hari's completely right, but the other side of this is people think it can't happen to me, right? I'm not famous, I'm not special, or you're all special, right? But I don't have $1 million in the bank account, I'm not creating this innovative new company. Why would an attacker come after me? But the point is, what we've seen is attackers are criminals, they're lazy. They want to hit you because they can. They don't care how important you are, they don't care how much money that you have, they don't care how famous you are, they only care if you're vulnerable. So they're going after people that don't have good cybersecurity, that aren't investing in it, that aren't thinking about it, aren't thinking like a spy hunter. They're going after the easy attack.
And I will also add that not only are they lazy, we're lazy. So we are way too lazy to protect ourselves because we say, oh, you know what, the chances that it's going to happen to me are pretty low, and I would just rather not bother with all this stuff and not bother learning about everything new out there because I'll be fine, most likely. And what we don't realize is that that laziness up front is going to cost us so much energy when our identity gets stolen down the line, because let me tell you, I've had members of my family have their identity stolen, and that is going to be months and months of your life, and it's going to take a lot more time than
So that's one misconception, is how can this happen to me? Are there any other misconceptions about the issue of online crime that come to mind?
Absolutely. We as a society haven't really figured out the breadth of this problem. It's, the $10.3 billion problem here in America, if we take that global, the cybercrime problem globally is over $7 trillion. So you want to talk about economies on GDP? Right now, the dark web, which is what suckers and resources and trains all of these cyber criminals.
While you're there, just pause and pretend nobody knows what the dark web is and say, what is it? People want to know.
Sure, I'll get to that in a second. So maybe I'll start with that. The dark web.
Josie needs to know.
I'm going to do this in like 30 seconds, which is impossible, so time me. If you think of the internet as a cavern, right? The stuff that we can see, when you go in, you see the stalactites and stalagmites, and you can stand up and you feel like, ooh, I'm in a cave. That's what you can Google, stuff we want you to find. Everything under that is the deep web. That's cool stuff too. That's stuff we want to protect with a password. But miles and miles down, all the way at the bottom, that's the dark web. It exists on what's called volunteer servers. These are servers that are all over the world that law enforcement can't touch. So they're immune from law enforcement to the most part. And these are where cyber criminals can collect. They have marketplaces, they have entire business verticals, including, for example, tech support, customer service, message boards. They issue press releases. Right now, the amount of money, your money, my money, that moves through the dark web is bigger than the economies of Germany and Japan. Right now, it is the third largest economy on Earth. And by 2025, it will be bigger than both Germany and Japan together. So that is a global problem. This is a problem that affects everyone in this world, and it grows by about 30 to 40% every year.
Wow. Hari, you have a new book coming out where you explain the crisis under the title Big Cybercrime. What do you mean by that?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think Eric covered some of this, which is, say, about a decade ago, if somebody was hacking into a system, they would do it because it was a matter of pride. Like, you could go tell your other hacker buddies that I got in there. They used to be called script kiddies. And what's happened over the last decade or so, as we get more connected, we use a lot more devices, we put a lot more data out there, and the ecosystem is getting much more sophisticated. You now have a real enterprise where you've got almost division of labor. Like, you have people whose job is to just harvest data. So the spear phishing, or like the emails that many of you might have gotten that looks like it's coming from your bank, or the wire scam that we were seeing last year.
Who's had one of those phishing or text scam things happen in just say the last 60 days?
Yeah, I mean, it's
there it is.
2/3 of the room here. So, we just we have these folks that are doing that. There are people that then figure out how to monetize it, and it's this very complicated ecosystem. And even if you're a big enterprise, you're continuously struggling. It's a cat and mouse type of game. But if you're just a regular family, you're sitting there going, well, what am I going to do? Like, I don't know how to attack something that's well financed, and it seems to be getting bigger and bigger by the minute. So our notion sort of around big cybercrime is that to be able to get after that, you need real technology. Like, you need smart folks that are able to build large systems and be able to enable families to be able to use that to fight what has now become a real endemic issue. So,
and Eric, you're kind of specifically situated because of information you've been privy to see this problem from so many different angles. The scope of it, how big is the problem?
It's ginormous. So cybercrime touches every single aspect of our lives. There is no business, vertical, or person that is immune to it. In fact, cyber attackers are reaching out to individuals. They're using social media. And what I like to say is there are no hackers, right? So stop thinking of the hackers, because when we think of hackers, what do we think about? Let's play a game. I'm going to say a word, and you put it in your head. Hacker. Okay, now you can raise your hands. How many people thought of some kid in a basement, black hoodie, typing away at a keyboard, the Hollywood version of the hacker, right?
I thought about war games.
Right,
with
okay,
Matthew Broderick.
Sure, that was a good one. But that's not the hacker. These are people, so cyber criminals have learned from cyber spies, and cyber espionage is the cream of the crop in stealing information. And so what these attackers are doing, not hackers, attackers, the cyber criminals are doing is they're leveraging the best in espionage techniques to trick you into giving them their data.
Excellent. Maria, you contend cyber criminals are, not unlike myself, artists, in confidence and masters of manipulation. So why do we so readily fall for them? Why can't we figure out this ruse?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the reasons I call them con artists is because they don't actually steal often, we give to them. They convince us to hand over information, to hand over trust. So confidence in the sense of trust, right? Do you have confidence in me? Do you trust me? And especially Americans, we like to be nice. We like to be helpful. We like people to like us. That's kind of something that tends to be important. We like to be polite. We don't often know how to get out of conversations, out of situations, and they take advantage of that. They could take advantage of the human element. So you can have a company that has all of the software in place that's remarkably secure, and all it takes is one person who wants to be nice and who wants to be helpful and who says, oh, you're locked out of your account? Oh, yeah, of course. No, I can help you with that. Or yeah, sure, I know how to do that. And then you're in, right? And that's actually something that's true from Hollywood movies. That line, we're in, that one is actually accurate.
I want to just admit to this very exceptionally thoughtful panel that I'm technologically, I'm just a dummy. Most of my interactions with my phone are like, why am I FaceTiming my dentist? I didn't want to FaceTime my dentist. And because all of us are not tech wizards, where is the hope? Is all hope lost? How do we combat this, Hari?
Yeah, you go talk to a family and you ask them, how do you feel about safety? If it's physical safety, people have now learned to think about that a lot. You lock your doors, you make sure your windows are shut, you have some sort of an alarm system in your home, and the amount of money lost to that compared to cybercrime, it's 1/2 as much, right? So people, so the typical answers we get are, well, I don't know where to start. I have this low-level sense of anxiety that I ought to do something, but I don't know what the thing is. And maybe if you kind of progress a little further, people say, well, I did a bunch of research, and it looks like there's a whole bunch of these kind of products out there, and I don't know if I need A, B, C, D, or is it 5, is it 10, is it many of these things? So a lot of the work we've been doing is really providing families with an easy button, the way we think about it. And that's what they need. Like, you don't need to go become a computer expert or an AI expert, which is really what you need at the core level to be able to fight these folks. But you're not going to go get a PhD in computer science or or take it that seriously. But on the back end of it, when the issue does happen, the cost to actually remedy that is quite a bit. Like in my case, I actually had an identity theft incident, which is what motivated me to start this company. For 5 years after that, every single year, the IRS would send me a note, have me come in directly to give them my taxes kind of printed out on paper with a bunch of identification information to prove that I was myself. To the point where by year 4, the lady was like, well, I kind of know who you are. I've seen you for 4 years now. And so it ought not to be that way, sort of the general sense we have. So,
Eric, I pulled this quote where you said, until we stop thinking of hackers as petty criminals and start thinking like spy hunters, we won't make headway in the cyber war.
Yeah, so think about it, especially with what Maria just said. What attackers are trying to do is fool us. They're trying to get us to think of them as friends. They're trying to get us to think of them as someone who's providing some business service to us. But they're trying to get us to trust. If they can get us to trust them, the text they sent, the email they sent, the link they sent, then they can steal our information. What we need to do is think like spy hunters. So that's what I was, right? And back in the day, I still kind of am. Now I hunt cyber spies. And the idea is that you need to peel back that layer of trust. Now, in your personal interactions, you can still have confidence people, but it's a little harder for someone to lie directly to you. Online, it's so easy. They can be whoever they want. So we need to think, particularly in the world of cybersecurity, as bringing what I call counterintelligence, right? Hunting spies into the technology, but also into our mindset. We don't want to trust that email we get. We want to wonder why that person in that text is telling us they've got this amazing cryptocurrency scheme you can invest in, or why the person has just sent you a chat through your Zoom saying, hey, come join me in this endeavor. We want to always take a step back because the internet is not a safe place. It just isn't. It's the Old West, and we all need to think of ourselves like gunslingers, and what I say is think like a spy hunter.
Maria dove headfirst into the story, which is just surreal, where you were basically unmasking con artists, which can be pretty risky. People who are misbehaving don't like to be found out. What was that experience like for you, and how can it apply to all of us as we fight this battle against cybercrime?
One of the most unnerving things about my 3 years uncovering con artists was that I was a journalist doing investigative work, knowing exactly who I was talking to, right? I knew they were con artists. And yet, I found myself charmed by them. I found myself liking them. I found myself interviewing this 80-year-old man who had spent over a decade in prison, so he was actually a con artist who got caught, who had cheated I don't know how many people out of how much money. And I'm sitting there thinking, oh my God, I want you to be my grandfather. And he's like, oh, you should come to my house in Connecticut. I'm gonna teach you some card tricks. And and I'm like, yeah, I wanna do that. And then I thought, Maria, oh my God, what in the world is wrong with you? This is a bad, bad, bad man who has done a lot of bad things. And that is the scary thing, how charming they are, how affable they are, how nice they are. They make you not see them coming. That's how it works. That's why they're artists. They're brilliant storytellers. They're fun. They're charismatic. They draw you in. And even if you're aware and your guard is up and you know they're con artists, you start falling for their charm. And that scared the living shit out of me.
I know. So imagine if you're not aware of who you're dealing with right away. And we all live by this social contract that, if our folks raised us right, we want to give the benefit of the doubt. And the terrible thing is that that is immediately used as a hook.
Yep.
So a baseline, hardwired human contract reality is the first thing that goes out the window. So Hari, how is what you're building, what we're partnering on here, different than the protections we've had for years that inadvertently perpetuated this crisis?
Yeah. When we started looking at this problem about 5 years ago, the first thing we looked at was where is the product landscape today and what are the solutions like? And to us, it appeared that they were very much point solutions. So you might have an antivirus software or something to protect your identity, or a VPN, which is an encrypted tunnel that you can kind of get through for safe data. And you also had this sort of separation between the time when the solution was built to now. So if you looked at the consumer, for many of these solutions that were built in the 90s, right, life looked very different then. Your home wasn't as connected. There wasn't as much data or information we were putting out on the web. So the first thing we said is, look, we have to build something that's for the modern consumer, that's relevant. And that, when you break it down, it means it has to be smart, it has to be all-in-one, it has to be a solution that people can just set it and forget it, and it's smart enough that it's trying to figure out what's happening in your life and alert you when you need to pay attention to it, because you don't have a lot of time and people are pretty overwhelmed. So that was the core of the separation for us. So.
And we did a big installation on all my home devices, me, my kids, core folks, and it was just amazing how much nonsense traffic went away right away. And then also, if you want to look under the hood, you can see some of the scarier stuff that you're like, I don't need to be terrified by this. I need it taken care of, and I need to know that it's running 24/7 so I can just get on with my life. Eric, you got to share some story with us from having been in the real, it's like a Grisham novel, this world of cybercrime for so long.
Yeah, I think I'll share the one that we chatted about earlier, about pig butchering. Anybody know what pig butchering is? You should. Last year, it was a $3.1 billion crime in the US. So of that $10 billion, this is
10.3, get real.
10.3. That's a third of it. So this crime, this is a real life story. An older gentleman receives a text. And we all have received these texts that say, hello, right? And I'm like, what the hell is this? What's wrong with the phone company? Why can't, this is obviously spam. It's not. They bought your phone number off the dark web. Just huge lists, and they throw them out there, and AI throws it out, right? And they're just waiting to see who responds. And then a person, a scammer, a cyber attacker, finds the polite people. And I do this all the time with these guys. I love it. I will drag them on for months until they finally look me up online and they go, crap, I wasted time. But they'll say hello, and you'll polite. You say, I'm sorry, you must have got the wrong number. And now they know, polite person. And they start talking to you. Oh, really? Well, sorry about that. What's your name? This is Claire. I live in San Francisco, and I'm working in the finance sector. And you might say, whoa, hi, I'm Eric. I live in Washington, D.C., and then I lie, and I don't say I'm a spy hunter. I say, I'm also in the finance sector. And what happens is they string you along for a while. Now, the better they are, the longer they'll go, until you feel like this is your friend. And then they say, I've got this awesome investment opportunity. It's cryptocurrency. Invest here just a little bit, and let me show you how good it is. You give them $100, you go to a website, you watch your $100 start going up by 10% every week. Like, holy crap, I can make a lot more money if I give them more. And you give them more and more and more, and you keep seeing your fortune rise and rise and rise until finally you've given them all your money, and then they disappear. They fattened the pig, and they butchered it. You've been pig butchered. And it is a huge crime. In 2020, when we were all locked down, it was romance fraud. You need someone to love. I'll love you, right? But give me your money. And then in 2021, it was business email compromise. We're still kind of working from home, still getting in the office, and the CEO sends you an email that says, pay this invoice really quick, right? And you do. Now in 2022, 2023, pig butchering, because we're all on our phones all the time, and we want to connect.
It's just wild. And yet, Maria, you've written that we can often glamorize these situations. How does that hurt our ability to fight them?
Yeah, I think that we often look at con artists in general and cyber criminals through a lens of almost admiration, like how clever, right? Look at what they were able to do. Look at how they were able to trick us. And that's where the glamour comes in, because once again, they didn't force Eric to put $100 on that website. He did it himself. That was his choice.
I didn't actually do it.
Yeah, sure you did. Sure you did. He's a little shy because he's a spy hunter and he fell for it. But I know, because I was the one who said hello.
I would never play
Someone
poker
in this
against
audience
Maria.
is going to start texting you in 10 minutes.
And then there's also the element of Schadenfreude. So we look at the people who are victims and we say, oh, well, sucks to be them. I would never be that greedy, right? I know when something is too good to be true. I wouldn't fall for that, sucks for them. And so we're able to dismiss it, and that makes it easier to put out of mind. The one thing that I will tell you, though, is that something is too good for someone else, but when it's happening to you, you don't think it's too good to be true. You think it's just right. You say, I deserve this, right? It's too good for that guy, but I've been working a long time and I deserve true love in 2020, right?
That's right.
I deserve someone who loves me. I deserve an amazing investment opportunity because I've been working my ass off for years and it's my time for a break. So when it's happening to you, when you're the one in it, it feels right. And when it's happening to others, though, we dismiss it and then we drop our guard and we don't think it's that big a deal. And then we blame the victim. That's the other part of it. We say, oh, well, you have to be greedy. You have to be gullible. You can't fool an honest man. All of that is BS. That is not true. Honest people are actually the easiest to fool because they'd never do it to someone else. So you don't actually think that someone else is out to get you. The nastiest thing about con artists, about cybercriminals, is they take advantage of the best thing of humanity. The fact that we're good, that we're hopeful, that we trust others. I mean, that's the amazing thing about being a human being. And that's the thing they take advantage of. And then we glamorize them and make movies about them and say, catch me if you can, how clever you are.
This would normally be the point where if we had had enough time and energy, you would all realize that we had hacked every one of your devices now. And then we would line you up and install Aura on the way up. But Hari, as you look out at the audience, honestly, just so we have some walkaways, what are 3 things that we should all do right now to make ourselves safer?
Yeah, I mean, I could say just go get Aura, but that seems self-serving. So we'll give you a few more tips. But like for example, when you see those breach notices that come in, the way that it manifests itself in your life might be in your credit card statements. It might be in your credit. So there's a lot of free solutions out there where you can just go out and get a solution that will let you check your credit, make sure it's not gotten destroyed. And don't wait for the bank statement to show up at the end of the month. Log in. Almost every bank now has an online service. Log in, make sure that there's nothing anomalous happening there. Another big one is passwords. Let me ask the question here. Across your work and personal accounts, how many of you reuse passwords? It's a big number, right? And so, if
the lights were off, there would have been more hands.
It's convenient. You don't want to think about it. You don't want to worry about it. But there's several password manager tools out there. Grab one because you just think about it. If your password for DoorDash is the same as your password for Amazon, is the same as your password for work email, if any one of them, if DoorDash gets breached like it did a couple of months ago, that's out there now. And how hard is it going to be to go Google your name and figure out you work at this other place and now start to use that information to try to get into that enterprise? And once they get into your email, it's game over, right? Because at that point, they can go change passwords inside your bank accounts. And we get infinite number of stories where people say, hey, like, my 401k got emptied, my house appears to have a second mortgage I had no idea was there. So all of these sort of bizarre things start happening on the back end of it. So don't reuse passwords. Make sure that they're difficult to crack. And if you can't figure it out, then get a password manager tool. Yeah.
Can I add one?
Yeah,
a really important one? Because your passwords are useless. I want to get rid of the passwords. I want to not have passwords, and in the future, we won't have them. It'll all be biometrics. You'll log on with your phone. You'll look at your phone, and you'll log into your account. Turn on multi-factor authentication or 2FA or whatever it's called on everything you do, especially your email accounts and your bank accounts and anything that matters to you, because all your usernames and passwords are for sale on the dark web.
Yep.
We could go online and look it up right now, any one of you, and I would find all your passwords. And the biggest breach that we had in the last few years here in the United States, critical infrastructure, a pipeline company that sends fuel from the West Coast to the East Coast, was breached because a username and password was bought off the dark web by enterprising attackers who just tried it and got in. Yep. Nothing else protecting. I'm simplifying it. I don't have time to go longer, but that was the basic way they got in. So please. As an evangelist for this stuff, turn on that second layer of protection beyond the password.
And I'm going to add one as well, which is lock down your social media. Stop accepting friend requests from people you have not actually met in real life. Stop sharing everything you do, everywhere you go, everything you're feeling blessed about, every single life event. Just don't do it, because that is information for hackers that they can use against you, that they can figure out, oh, well, your firstborns, this is their middle name, this is the time they were born, at 11:03 p.m. You've just put this all over Twitter. We can all see this. This is all very valuable information that we're just putting out there. My favorite story is when all of my journalist friends accepted a friend request from a hacker who had just posed as a journalist at another publication. And the way she was able to do this was get one person to accept it. Then they would say, oh, she's friends with X, so I must know her. So all of a sudden, this person was friends with all of New York media. And I was so upset that I didn't have a friend request, because I was like, well, what am I, rotten liver? You know, what's wrong with me? And then I did see that I actually had it, and I hadn't accepted it yet. So I felt pretty good about myself. But yeah, lock it down. So that's kind of beyond the two-factor authentication. We don't even think about that, but that's so important, and that is just fodder for cybercrime.
I'll add actually one more as well. One of the things we find in any family, the two most vulnerable groups are your kids and your elders. And that's really a big attack vector that a lot of the criminals start to use. So like in our household, we talk to our kids about, hey, you know, if you're on Discord or you're on Roblox or you're on any of these gaming platforms, don't engage with other folks. Don't give out home information. Like, don't tell people where you live. So you want to kind of get into that mode of actually training your kids to actually be a little bit suspicious. And you know, as others were saying earlier, it's unfortunate that we have to live in this manner where you have to teach your kids not to trust, teach your kids to be scared of strangers, and taking away a lot of the goodness that's in people. But it is pretty tough out there, and if they put the wrong information out there, the cleanup is just very, very expensive for families. So
That was great. I mean, we pretty much answered everything and more. I think some audience questions would be a great idea. Oh, this is a good one. Okay. Eric, when you grab this, where are security biggest gaps? Gmail, WhatsApp, what devices does Eric use?
Well, I use an iPhone. I use an iPhone. I have not jailbroken my iPhone. iPhone has a bit more of a closed infrastructure. That doesn't mean that it's 100% safe, but it means it is a little bit more safe than other devices that have more of an open architecture. All that means is it's a little bit harder for attackers. The way that they try to get into your phones, by the way, is to send you a link in a text or to get you to go through something. And then with the iPhone, you actually have to install an app. There are other ways they can do it. That's the basic way they do it. They're going to try to get your master account. I had a friend who lost her iCloud account, and that was everything.
Wow.
Imagine that. Now you've got every single password in your keychain, right? So that's part of what they want to get. I do use Gmail. I do it very carefully. I'll give you a tip for what I do with email, because email is still the #1 way that people will breach you. I have something like 6 different email accounts. Some are for business, but I have 4 different personal accounts, and I use them for different things, right? Correspondence is Gmail. Outlook is crap. Not that it's a crap, but that's like all the things that you register for, the ice cream store, right? The PetSmart, like all of that, because that's what's going to get lost on the dark web, and that's where you're going to get all of the. You can quickly go through and just pretty much delete everything, and then different accounts for things that I subscribe to. The reason I'm doing is I'm curating the things that I am using passwords on, so I can see where the breach happened, and sort of get a sense that I can go through this box really fast and delete. I have to go slower here. And it puts me in the mindset of really hunting. I call it being an email archaeologist, right? Like Indiana Jones, not like dusting a dinosaur bones, like whipping fedora, going through email and like looking for the bad guy in there. Social media is the last thing. Like Maria said, I'm almost not on social media. My agents hate it. Like, why don't you tweet more? I try. I'm really terrible at it. But I mean, I was a spy. I was undercover for 5 years with the FBI, taught not to be seen ever, and now I've got to like tweet being on stage with Robert Downey Jr. And
Yes, you do.
I do. I should, right? But anyway.
This is a big moment in your career.
Yes, it is. My wife will kill me for it. But I'm very careful on social media. Very, very careful, especially with anything to do with my children, but also where I am or when my family's away on vacation.
Yep.
Because attackers will use that to find out when you're not home, and then they just break in.
It's so bananas because so many of these things are eliminated just by not offering information. We just blindly volunteering information is kind of almost like second nature. Hari, what advice would you give to individuals and or organizations who want to improve their cybersecurity posture but may not have the resources or expertise to do so?
Yes, that's a great question. So whether it's your own family or it's an enterprise, I think getting everybody into the fight is the single best thing you could do. And if it's your family, educating your kids, educating your seniors in your home, making sure that you kind of go through individual use cases. Say this could happen, and if it does, here's how you ought to behave, and don't give out information. And again, even with the information sharing we're talking about, the social networks are smart, right? They kind of figure out how human behavior is and try to figure out how to nudge people in that direction. Like, you see a friend sharing, their location, I'm at the ice cream store. Now you feel like, wow, that was kind of cool that I know that. I should go do that, right? And so you want to kind of stay away from the temptation, make sure the rest of your family does the same as well. With enterprises, and maybe it's a small business, for larger enterprises, you see that they have an entire CISO team, and they have information security specialists on site. Even there, by the way, even within our company, we will make all our employees go through training scenario by scenario, because many of the threats that you can automatically stop, there are good tools out there, and many of them are not crazy expensive. Like if you're an enterprise, you could probably buy some of these. But if you have a weak link in your employee base, that's really where a lot of these attacks are starting to come from. So making sure that everybody is in the fight with you is probably singularly the best thing you could do, whether it's for a company or for your household.
Love it. Maria, Eric, this sounds like a question a snarky smartass like me would ask. Do you think there may be cyber attackers here at this conference? Con artists, scam artists.
Yeah.
Where are they? What seat are they in? Oh, no. It just said, here. What is the likelihood percentage-wise that at South by Southwest there's just people?
I mean, I would say 100%. Although actually no. So the one thing that I learned from my time in the world of poker, which is my other life.
Oh yeah.
There's no such thing as 100%. So let's take that down a notch. Let's put it down to like 99%.
Oh, great. Okay.
But yes, if I were a con artist, if I were a cyber criminal, I would absolutely go to the place where all of these people have converged. And what are we here to do? Meet people, network, figure out what's going on. And that is just a golden opportunity, because that's when I can insert myself into conversations. Everyone's new, nobody knows each other. I can pretend to be from any organization. If I can snag one of your badges, I mean, now I'm golden. I can just be anyone I want and get you to volunteer so much information, what you're excited about, what you're worried about, what you're working on, what you want to potentially invest in. I mean, this for me is like my information gathering for the rest of the year. This is where I'm going to feed.
So like a tech mixer is like a watering hole.
Absolutely. Absolutely, because there are also people who like risk and who don't want to be left behind. And you are people who are early adopters, who want to be at the forefront, who want to know what the next big thing is, and who want to be a part of it. And that is perfect for a cyber criminal or even a non-cyber con artist, because that's what we can sell then. Then I can tell the story around that exact thing so that you don't miss out on my opportunity. By the way, after this panel, you guys can come meet me. I've got a great opportunity for you. It's crypto related. You can make amazing returns. And look, I've worked with con artists, so I know how this works. You can trust me.
Oh my God.
Also content generators, right? People who are creating content, who are creating intellectual property, who you guys have your YouTube channel, you guys have your Slack channels, you're building content, are targets for cyber attackers, because if we can get your data, like I'm a cyber attacker, I'm on the other side, but I put myself in the mindset. The idea is like if we can lock your account, if we can steal your account, if we can get your information, we can hold it for ransom, we can extort you. That's what cyber attackers want to do, and you got to think that way.
And the other thing I will ask is, how many of you here are staying in a hotel? How many of you have signed on to public Wi-Fi? How many of you have done so without using VPN on your phones? There should be more hands up. I think some of you are not saying yes because you know you're not supposed to do that.
You know, we didn't bring you here to shame you. I am going to turn down the lights, and we're going to let people get honest for once. Hari, this is a good one. For minority communities affected by technological educational disparities, what additional steps can they take to help protect themselves?
Yeah, this is actually a passionate area for us at Aura. So it's interesting when you look at vulnerable communities, right? And the way we've been looking at it is, so call it overseas military personnel was one big bucket. So if you've got active military folks that are going overseas, they tend to get hacked significantly more than the regular population. Another one are foster kids. We see this quite a bit because the kids are in and out of the system quite a bit. A lot of their information, nobody's actually looking out for them. Victims of domestic abuse, that's another big one where typically it's the spouse that's taking a lot of the information they already had to then go back and do things that are tough. Black and Latinx communities, again, not a lot of availability for certain kinds of tools out there. So I think, again, here, what we try to do is kind of get product out to all of these different communities. And the other big thing is, we'll find an organization like Blue Star Families, for example, for overseas military personnel, and we'll spend a lot of time with them trying to understand the problem and bake the solution into the product. So in my opinion, people talk a lot about diversity, they talk a lot about inclusion, it's the big sort of push now, but if your products are not represented by diverse communities and the pricing even, to a point where you can't give this product to a community because they can't afford it, it's not really very inclusive or diverse in our viewpoint. So I think the movement around DEI is very good, but I think there needs to be a lot more aggregation of companies that think in that manner so they can get better solutions out for people that actually need them.
That's great. Yeah, applause worthy. Getting down to the last few here. Eric, state-sponsored cyber attacks are on the rise on sovereign institutions. How does today's cybersecurity get on the front of attacks as opposed to just being reactionary?
Yeah, now we're into what keeps Eric up at night. And it absolutely is the state-sponsored cyber attack. So what we're really worried about on a national level, I'm a national cybersecurity strategist, is critical infrastructure attacks. They are on the rise. There have been significant probe attacks coming from many of the countries that aren't particularly sympathetic to the US, like your China's and Russia's and North Korea's and Iran's and others, although everybody spies. And there's a concern. So over at the World Economic Forum, just recently, about 700 brilliant people got together and came up with what they call a global catastrophic mutating event, right? Which sounds really scary. And they said there's 5 different ways the world will end in 2 years. It's like, thanks, guys. And of all the 5, right, we've got like nuclear war, we've got civil unrest, we have another pandemic, yay, and things like climate change and mass migration. Number 5 is what really worries me, and that's where I think we'll see it. And that is a critical global cyber attack. These are going to be state-sponsored. They're going to be widespread. We've seen them in the past, and they're going to turn off the lights, and then we can't do this, which might not be a bad thing for a little while. I don't know. We'll play Monopoly for a while. But what really will happen is that all the things that we need to continue to live the lives we live will not happen. And so we, as a global society, but also as a country here in the United States, have got to get ahead of this. And so there's been a huge push for critical infrastructure. And I'm not talking about roads and bridges. I'm talking about hardening defenses against critical cyber attacks. One last point, and then I'll shut up. You can take out a big section of the power grid by shutting down 9 substations. Just recently this year, people shot guns at 3 substations in North Carolina and took them out, just by shooting a gun at them. And it's just as easy to get in to launch a cyber attack because the networks tend to be old. So that's 3. All they had to do is get 6 more, and all the lights and powers would be off on the East Coast. So these things have to happen. They have to change. So if you're wondering what keeps me up at night, I get that question a lot too. That's it.
Last couple questions, maybe a minute on each for Maria. Is social engineering the main problem to be tackled to prevent cybercrimes?
I think that it's dangerous to say that something is the main problem because then it makes you deprioritize other ones, but it's an important problem. And it's, for me as a psychologist, it's obviously the biggest concern because I always say that any organization is only as strong as its weakest link. And the weakest link is going to be human, and the weakest link is going to be social engineering. That is how it's going to fall. So you can have, a million paywalls and firewalls and two-factor authentication and all of these things, and then you have one person who's getting coffee at the same coffee shop every single day, and somebody knows his routine, and that's the person who's going to bring down the organization, and they won't even know it. So yeah, I think that social engineering is a huge threat, and it's also a threat because we so effortlessly and thoughtlessly share information online. We really just don't give it a second thought these days. And the amount of things about ourselves that hackers in the past had to really spend time researching, now we just give it to them. We make it so easy. We're just leaving breadcrumbs out there. They know everything about us, where we're from, what we like, what we're scared of, what our food allergies are, all of these things. Do you have an Amazon wish list? Is it public? Did you just get married? Did you just have a kid? All of these things, I'll just say it over and over and over. You don't think it can be used against you, but it really, really can. And that, to me, is something that we just collectively do, and that's going to be the downfall of even the greatest security agency.
Great. Last question real quick, Hari. Who is more vulnerable in your estimation? Is it teens? Is it the elderly? What's your experience?
So in my experience, I would say probably equally vulnerable in a lot of ways. It's almost like when, with my kids, when they got devices, it was like a whole new world opened up. They're like, wow, like I can go do all this stuff. I can download these apps. I can go, meet my friends online, et cetera. So, those sort of between, call it 10, 12 years of age until 18 when they're out, they're doing, a lot of their life is online. So they're putting a lot of information out there. A lot of their social norms are all online as well. And then with seniors, it's a slightly different problem where they tend to be very trusting. Like somebody calls them, and we were talking earlier about the
banana story.
Yeah, the grandfather or a grandparent type of a scam where somebody calls and says, "Hey, I'm stuck in prison," and the grandpa thinks, "Hey,
and don't tell my folks."
Yeah, don't tell my folks. I don't want them to find out about it. And the grandpa says, "Well, I'll send you the money, Billy, and here it is." And turns out it's the wrong person. From something as draconian as that to simple things where they'll use social cues like, "Oh, I'm calling from your church. We'll try to call you right at 2 o'clock in the afternoon because that's the dip in the day," right? So these are all
you're
things.
Feeling the most lonely and wanting the most contact.
Exactly,
That's
and
crazy.
so people have figured out these patterns and they'll use them against you. So with seniors, it's the phone that tends to be a real problem. Like email is probably not as vulnerable, but that still happens. With teenagers, it's much more online usage. So you kind of have to attack it slightly different ways, but they're both probably, I would say, from a cybersecurity perspective, as much as we love them, the weakest link in the household is what we tend to find. So,
well, everybody, I want to thank Eric and Maria for kind of getting in the headspace of these bad actors. Eric for figuring out how to go after them. Hari for developing what I think is a superior product. We're going to be continuing to try to raise awareness on this as we go. Thank you for making us a stop. We know you had a choice of places to be today at South by Southwest. It means a lot to us that you showed up. We hope you got something out of it. And stay safe online, and we'll see you around the clubhouse. Thanks a ton, everybody.
Thank you.